Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff. It's First Impressions Day and today we're looking at this. It's the Percival Vega Gull from Dora Wings in 1:72 scale. And on the front of the box we have this nice artwork depicting the airfield with a couple of chaps there. It's a sort of canvas painting effect on the front, so a little bit fuzzy really. And it tells us that this is the military service version. If you remember, we did have a look at one of these in civil earlier this year or back end of last year, I don't quite remember. But as we look on the side of the box, we can see we've got some other versions here. This end tells us the same as the top, as does that. And then on this end, we have a side profile displaying an aircraft in Argentine service. It tells us that the model length is 164 millimeters, wingspan 153, that we've got 92 plastic parts, 21 photo etch parts, and that we need to add our own glue and paint. And it's 14 and above, recyclable polystyrene, and not for under 3s. Okay. So we have a nice top opening box. And when we look inside, we have a nice colourful instruction manual. We'll have a look at that in a moment. And then we have our parts, which are all in Ziploc bags. So we've got our sprues in one bag, plastic sprue in a separate bag, decals and paint masks in another bag, and our photo etch in another bag. Let's have a look at the instructions. Okay, so this is the instruction. It's a colour stapled booklet, A5, and on the front we have the box art again. We have what I assume is the kit number DW, Dora Wings, 72004. It tells us the same information that we had on the box. It's a ready to assemble model kit. Contents is one kit, it tells us. What it doesn't say is that this kit was originally a new tool in 2018, so it's a fairly recent kit. The civil version coming out first, and then the military version later that year. And in the UK, currently this will retail at around about £12 to £15 if you look around at the time of recording this in August of 2022. Okay, so then we have a little bit of text which talks about the research behind the particular aircraft. Then we have a sprue map, but it doesn't have the numbers or anything like that, so it's of limited use really. But it is a quick way of checking that you've got 3 plastic sprues, clear plastic sprue, paint masks, film, and photo etch. At the bottom we've got the symbols that are used throughout the build. Then as we flick over, we've got our assembly instructions. So everything's black and white, but it's nice and clear. And we've got step numbers next to each point, nice and clear in the top left. We've got the parts depicted with directional arrows, and it tells us the part number. So it's all very clear. And we're actually starting with building the wheels, quite strangely, because we won't be adding those on for a bit, I wouldn't have thought. Then we're building the dials, so we've got film, we've got a plastic part, we've got a photo etch part. You'll notice there's no reference to paint colours at all on here, so you will have to do some of your own research. Then we've got more parts going in for the cockpit, some levers there. So I'm assuming they are photo etch because they have a number and not a letter, so there's no sprue reference. I'm just checking what's that bend. Okay, so some photo etch that needs bending there. Then we are building up a section of the cockpit, and then we are building up the wings. It's telling us to do some drilling there, but not giving us a diameter of the drill bit. We have some more photo etch going on, and then we've got quite a little assembly for the lamp. So we've got a clear part going into the wing, but we've got what looks like a bit of 2 bits of photo etch to make that lamp up. So that could look quite nice. Looks like we have to do a little bit of trimming around one of the wings. We'll have a look at the parts and see how obvious that is. We've got more drilling to do in these parts before we go to assembly in step 11. Step 10 builds the seat up, and we can see that there's photo etch harnesses included. And then step 11, we're starting to build up the aircraft proper. And it has this slightly unusual seat arrangement. So I have seen this on 1 or 2 aircraft of the period. Certainly the Germans were doing this as well. And we have this sort of car seat at the back and 2 side-by-side seats at the front. So on such a small aircraft, it's quite an odd arrangement, I think. Anyway, they're going in along with the steering sticks. We've got some photo etch for the pedals and more plastic going in. So that's 13 steps. I think the steps are broken down quite clearly, though I question the sequence on some of those early parts. I mean, I'm sort of tempted to start at 8 and 9, to be honest, and just build the sub-assemblies as you need them. Step 14, our 2 fuselages go together. We finish the tailplane. Step 15, and we've got the clear parts going in. So we've not got the wings on or anything like that, but clear parts. Doesn't appear to be any figures, but we're also putting the front section on, propeller and spinner. Again, there's no engine here. Then we've got more clear parts going on. It seems to be like a gull wing Dora effect going on there. Then we're flipping the model over in step 17 and adding some panels in the bottom. And is that the exhaust? I think that possibly is the exhaust by the looks of it. Then the wheels that we made in step 1 get added in step 18. So I question why you'd build them and then risk losing the assemblies. Just leave the parts on the sprue till you need them. And we've got some photo etch going on the wings, wings being attached. Be interesting to see how strong we think that join's going to be. It looks like just 2 little connection pins. Anyway, tail wheel goes in, which appears to have part of the fuselage on, and then we're adding some details underneath. Then we are on step 20. So we've got some more small parts going on, flipping it back over. I'm not quite sure what those little bits are on the edge of the wings. I've never seen them before. And then our antenna on the top. So 21 steps, looks a fairly simple build, but got some nice detail in places. We'll have a look at the plastic in a minute. And that then gets us to our paint instructions. So what we can see here is we've got a nice colour map of everything we need to be doing, showing the top, the underside, and the two different sides. So we've got a traditional sort of camouflage and sky blue bottom, and it tells us that this is 42 Squadron, Royal New Zealand Air Force, Rongotia. I'm not sure I can even pronounce that. 1944. And we've got our decal references there. So we have a combination of major markings and some stencils. Not many, but we have some. That's the main thing. But there is no paint references at all. There's no reference to what these colours are. There's no reference to manufacturer of paints. And I seem to recall we had the same issue last time. Then we have a version. This is the Argentinian version. That's interesting. Okay. So allocated to the British Air Attaché in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So again, there is no reference to what this colour is. So is that grey? Is it aluminium? Is it silver? What is that? No way of knowing. So you're going to have to do some research. It's pretty poor that you don't get any instruction on the paint. But we've got all the decals there. So that will be some form. I reckon that's silver. And then we have another 2 paint options. So this is good. We've got 4 decal options here. So 1 camouflaged, all the rest appear to be this, what I suspect is silver. And this one is a Belgian version from the phony war period, 19th of September 1939, requisitioned by the Belgian government. Some Belgian markings. So that's quite unusual, and I like that. Appears to be showing us, is that front and back? Or yeah, I think that's front and back by the looks of it. Not 100% clear to me which one is the front. I think the silver is the front. Black would be the back. That would make sense. The pilot doesn't get glare, I would imagine. And then this last paint is December 46, sold to the Argentine government. So we've got Argentine markings. So we've got some quite interesting and different varied markings there, even though the paint scheme is pretty much the same. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look at the decals next. So our decal sheet is very busy. We've got 4 options that are all being squeezed into this relatively small decal sheet, and some of these are quite crammed together and will be difficult to cut out. They're not cartograph, they are printed in the Ukraine. Obviously Dora Wings being a Ukrainian company, but they are nice and thin. They look nice and colourful. They've got this sort of matte sheen to them, which I like, and they appear to be in good register. 1 or 2 of them have a little bit of extra backing material on, more than perhaps we would like, and appear to be slightly printed off center to that, but there's no major issues there. Some of them we can probably trim down and remove some of that decal film just to reduce exposure to silvering and stuff, but that's a nice set of decals actually. So let's flip that over so we can see our acetate film. So as I feel this, it is a little bit bumpy. You can feel the print. And when we put it on a white piece of paper, you can see some of the dial hands, but to be honest, I think Decals would have been a better option. Don't know. We'll have to see what this looks like when it's put in. Now, there is definitely a glossy side and a less glossy side because of the print. So make sure when you put it in, you get it the right way round. Although I'm guessing the arrangement probably dictates that for you as I think about it. But yeah, I've certainly seen dials printed on acetate before, and it works okay. So also in the bag with our Decals is a set of die-cut masks which cover the canopy and look to cover the wheels as well, the wheel hubs. So that is nice. These are die-cut vinyl masks, so they're very high quality, better than the tape masks that you get from Edward, for example. You get a neater, tighter cut edge on them. Yeah, very nice indeed. Nice little addition to the kit. Next we have the photo etch, which is some form of copper alloy. It's certainly not pure copper because it is quite hard to bend, so quite what it is I'm not sure. It almost looks a bit annealed as well, but again, not quite sure. It's a nice little set of photo etch actually. It's relief etched, and just look at the detail on there on the radio sets, really nice. And we've got some cockpit details there, relief etched for the dials, and then we've got some nice etch on our harnesses. It's actually really nicely done. Right, so we're going to start with sprue A when it comes to the plastic parts, and this has got our two fuselage halves, it's got our underside, and it's got our cockpit floor panel. And then these other bits are also related to the cockpit. So yeah, it's the main structural parts in the main. And as we look at the plastic, it's all nice and crisp. I can't see any flash particularly. A little bit of seam cleanup to be done, but nothing major. There is not much in the way of detail, but equally there is no ejector pin marks on the inside. As we flip it over, we've got some panel line detail on the underside, which is nice, and then on the fuselage we've got very nicely depicted hinges, some detail there, panel lines which are really quite light, so that's nice. We've got texturing on the wing, that's a little bit rough, the moulding there, but we can see lots of detail around there. Again, I think this is sort of a wooden material construction, which is why we've not got panel lines on it. But yeah, we've got some nice detail where there should be some. That'll look nice under paint and a bit of a wash. Possibly a bit of dry brushing. That should look lovely. And we can see some detail on the floor pan there as well. And again, no ejector pins on any of this. Really nice. Sprue B just deals with our wings, and what we've got is actually a really nice set of wings. We can see that we've got a cutout for the lamp in the wing there, but here it's blocked out, so that's clearly to do with different variants. There is some very fine raised fastener detail. I can barely feel it as I run my finger over it. And then we've got some nice recessed panel lines. We've got some little raised lumps there. and we've got a really nice texturing running along there. You can just see that in the light. Really nice. Again, nice and crisply moulded. We can see here this is our 2 location points for the wings. And I think it sort of, the end of the wing sits inside the moulded part of the fuselage a little bit, but it seems quite a weak solution to me. We flip it over and look at the texturing on the other side. It's exactly the same. We've got a combination of raised and recessed detail, some lovely ribbed canned texturing there, and what I imagine is a lamp at the end, but yeah, need to check back in the instructions whether we're painting that as a lamp or not. But very nice. It's not too thick, no issues with it. A little bit of seam to clean up, but that's just a gentle scraping. We're away. Sprue C now, and we've got pretty much everything else on here. Lots of small parts. We can see our seats there, so we seem to have slightly different options. So this sprue, different shaped tails as well, this sprue clearly covers both the military and civilian versions. So what we've got is, again, some nice crisp moulding. I can see a little bit of flash on some of them, but we've got no issues in terms of major cleanup. A little bit of flash, like I say. There's no sink marks. Everything looks nice and crisp, and no ejection pin marks. So let's start at the top. We've got the exhaust, which is solid, and the tail there, which has got some nice texturing. Then we've got the propeller blade, and we appear to have 2 different types of propeller. You can see that the blades are slightly different shapes. We've got our radio antenna and another tailpiece. And then we have, not quite sure what that is. We've got our engine front covers. You can see they are slightly different. We've got 2 different types of engine covers there. Our wheels are solid, so solid hubs and tyres. There's no flats on them, so it's all as in air, if you like. Then we've got our flaps there for the wings, some form of engine vent, which I didn't see being used. I'm not quite sure what that is either. It looks like mounts for ordnance, but we haven't got any ordnance. We've got the halves for our wheels, which look nicely done. No surface detail on them, which surprises me a little. Then we've got our seat, bottom and back, which has got a nice bit of texturing on. That'll come out again in the wash. Then our seats, fairly basic seat, so it's a good job we've got our photo etch harnesses for those. A couple of different shaped spinners and backs for the spinners. Then we've got more bits for the tail. 3 different styles of tail wheel, which means we may have yet more to come out of this model. Then we've got, that's for the wheels, so that's the landing gear and more tail parts and some small details. Detail of the moulding is really nice. Yeah, I think at 1/72 scale, this doesn't look too bad at all. It's not the best 1/72 scale aircraft I've looked at, but it's certainly got enough to get a nice display piece out of it. Finally, our clear parts, and we've got a fair number of them. we seem to have two different styles of cockpit. Got the front, we've got the doors are the same, but then these back sections are different, and some of the fuselage is in there, so easy to glue in and what have you. They're not the clearest parts that I've ever seen. They have a sort of a slightly rough texture. Can you see that in the light? But dip that in some Humbrol clear varnish and that will look really, really nice. And then we can mask them with those vinyl masks and paint them up. We've also got the little wing lights here as well. But yeah, that's not a bad set of transparent parts, in all fairness. No major issues with that at all. So there you have it, the Dora Wings Percival Vega Gull in 1:72 scale. What is my first impressions? Well, I think it's a lovely little kit actually. The level of detail is nice enough to get a really nice display piece. What you've got is detail at the back end, detail at the front end and the wings, and this centre section is quite bereft of them. Of detail, so it'll be quite an. So I think it'll be quite an interesting looking kit when done. For me, the draw is the subject matter. It's something completely different to yet another Mustang, yet another Spitfire, yet another Hurricane. It's completely different, and I think one of the highlights is the fact that we've got some very interesting decal options there. Argentinian, Belgian. It's really interesting. I think in terms of the kit parts, they're not the most detailed kit parts that I've ever seen, and they're not some of the most. They don't have the best finesse of molded parts I've seen at this scale. However, put it together, paint it up, it should look a fairly decent representation, and with a bit of photo etching stuff should look quite nice. I think all in all you've got a fairly decent kit here, which should be a nice little weekend project, 2 or 3 nights work maybe, a sort of a build night, a paint night and a finishing night. I think, and you've probably got it in the bag. I think it's a nice little kit. I'm looking forward to building it. It's the sort of thing that when you need a change of pace, you pick it up and do something just because it's completely different. So yeah, I think it's great. So there you go. If you're in the market for the Dora Wings Percival Vega Gull, you now know what you get in the box. I hope that was useful. You take care and you enjoy your modelling, and I will see you very soon.